Hello, Douglas Weed here, host of the Gamer's Closet, having another closet chat this weekend. This game chat is going to be talked about as seen on TV. What I mean by that is there are many board games that have been created by Ideal, Parker Brothers, Milton Bradley, and several other companies over the years that have direct impacts to TV games. A lot of the TV games are um, either cartoon series, TV shows. Um, some of them are directly resulting in movies, things of that nature, but there's a lot of kid based TV show games. I have a couple of examples here of different variations of TV games, but a lot of them I don't have currently available, but I do have several pictures of a few, so I do want to discuss a few things. Um, so, TV became really popular the late 50s, early 60s. And with that, they dropped out TV shows to captivate audiences, westerns, war shows, um, you name it, there's a TV show. Um, so, hand in hand with that, there were lots of kids that grew up in front of the TV. And with that, there were a lot of favorite TV shows that kids watched. Mr. Ed, Get Smart, Combat, McHale's Navy, Gilligan's Island, things of that nature. And every one of those shows, whether people realize it or not, have a board game. Uh, Good example that I have here is the Combat, the board game from CBS, manufactured by Ideal. It doesn't really have much to do with the show, but it is a kind of a basic kid-friendly one-on-one war game, I guess you could call it. It has a lot of randomness to it, so I wouldn't really classify it as a good war game. But you can see on the cover here, you have um, Vic Morrow and Rick Jason. So they marketed it as the based on the television network game show and went from there. There are games just about on every TV show you can think of. Uh, Several examples, which I do have some book photos here out of my uh, board game guide, which I kind of use this as my shopping guide looking for specific things. But a couple of things that I do want to mention that stand out, I think, that do need to be mentioned. I'll give you a good couple of examples here. You've got, if I can do the lighting on this right, you've got the Gunsmoke game. You've got Wells Fargo. You've got Have Gun Will Travel. You have many different board games based off of television shows. Some of them have nothing to do with the television show other than the branding. So, that being said, a lot of them are not good. A lot of them, there are some that gems that do squeeze in there. Combat, like I showed you, as it is, on a standalone. It's a decent game, but based on the television show, it does not compare to the television show in any way, shape, or form. It has GI versus GIs. It's weird. Um, on the other side of that, with television show games, you get a couple other different things. You get, like for example, when they were pushing the cable networks where you can flip channels and try to go through and figure out something, they created the channel surfing board game. Channel surfing the board game is a game that you can play with other people, but to play it, you have to have cable or multiple TV channels. So you just sit there and flip channels until you find cards that are listed on your game. This is a game that was good for parties. It's good for groups of friends, but nowadays, where there are streaming services or people don't have cable or they watch stuff on their phone, this game does not play very well. If you had cable or if you still have basic TV channels, you could probably play this game still. But you have to flip through. So the game plays differently every single time based on whatever's on TV at the time. But as it goes, it is what it is. It's a channel surfing game. So unless you have something where you can go along those lines, you can't play this game. That game right there, you can find at most thrift stores nowadays because it is, I would say, is one of the most abandoned board games out there. Because unless you have TV stations where you can sit there and flip through channels, you can't play it. All it is a cards and tells you to turn your TV remote on. That's it. There are several other different types of games that I do want to mention. One of my favorite, which this game is still playable today. I was lucky enough to get my dad had a DVD VCR combo kit, and he was able to transpose the VHS tape over onto a DVD format. Um, oh yeah, I agree, Craig. Transogram. They were big on TV show board games. You name it, they made it. Um, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of television show board games. Um, this one I'm about to show you, it's not a transogram game. It's manufactured by Wizards of the Coast and Decipher in the early 90s. I'm a big fan of this game. I play this with my friends. We have a running joke about this game because it plays on a VHS tape, which is Star Trek The Next Generation Interactive VCR Board Game. This game is a game that plays just like a television episode of Star Trek. It runs on a VHS tape, and you have to play the game while the VHS tape is running. Systematically, the game will have the Klingon that takes over your ship pop on and starts yelling at random people. So the game plays a little differently every time, even though the video is the same every single time. It just depends on how fast you take turns. Um, my friends and I have a running joke on this game of taking the Klingon captain and using him as sound bites for a cell phone. So you get random text messages from this yelling Klingon, which I think is hilarious. VCR board games are weird. They have this one. Honestly, I would say is my favorite one. There are Three Stooges games. There are movie monster games from Ideal. There are Pressman put out several different VCR board games. They're all really weird. There are a lot of them that are tailored towards television shows still, or movies or TV shorts. I know the Three Stooges had a VCR board game that came out in the late 80s, and all it did was show random clips from their serials from the theater. So VCR board games are kind of in this weird area of their own, but they don't really show up in a as much as you'd like them to. Nowadays, like I said, when you find copies of these, like at thrift stores or used market or stuff like that, a lot of times the VHS tape is damaged. You can find people that have loaded the VHS tapes online, especially on YouTube. Board Game Geek is really good having listings on them. Like I said, I was able to get my dad to transpose the VHS tape for this one over onto DVD, which allows me to play it in a lot more places. But I think this is one of those better VCR board games. Some of the other TV show games that have come out are they're older versions like Battlestar Galactica. This one's from the 1979, 1980, I believe. So it's just plays capture the flag. They would drop out pretty much whatever they could to market towards the audience as quickly as possible to make money off of the audience while the show was in the air. This show itself only ran for a couple of years. The game is really not great. It was rushed. You can actually see it listing on it on my channel. You can play it if you want. It's not a great game, but as a game goes, if you haven't played it, I'd recommend at least trying it. Um, Battlestar Galactica, it's an alright game. Um, they have been releasing newer board games over the years that are again towards other TV shows. There's the Buffy the Vampire Slayer the game. There is games for some of the Marvel games. We have Shield and some of that stuff that's really popular. So they are slowly coming back, but not to the degree they were at the height, I would say, during the mid 60s, where just about every TV show you could think of had a board game. Mr. Ed had a board game. Get Smart had a board game. Combat had a board game. McHale's Navy had a board game. You can go play the Donna Reed board game. A couple of those board games are really hard to find and worth a pretty decent amount of money, like the Outer Limits board game or the Twilight Zone board game. They're really obscure, but they're worth a semi decent amount of money, especially if you find them on the aftermarket, out in the collectors markets, because they are a little on the rarer side. I think I have a couple of photos here for some of them. Some of those board games are, like I said, they're just weird. Let's see here, Twilight Zone 107. So I would say some of those games are a little more on the interesting side. Like Dark Shadows had a board game. For whatever reason, General Hospital, the soap opera, had a board game. You name it, they have it. There's the Twilight Zone board game from Ideal. You can also go play the Outer Limits board game. Let me turn the lighting there down. So, but yeah, like the Twilight Zone board game, I would say is a pretty oddball board game. You can play Dark Shadows. You can play the Outer Limits. You have Journey into the Unknown. You name it, it's there. I would say some of those games are worth looking into, especially just from a collector's value standpoint. Some of them have, like I said, good value to them, but a lot of them are, I would honestly say, not really worth the cardboard that they're printed on. Some of them are really horrible, but it's a case by case basis. So if you're going to look for older board games, especially on the TV show end, I would say take a look at popular things. Like I would go look at the Twilight Zone or Outer Limits is a good option. There is a series of Godzilla board games that were from the mid 60s that are pretty decent. There are a couple of other military style board games. Like there's one on the Rat Patrol that I would recommend taking a look at. It was a pretty decent board game. But a lot of those games, I would say, are not great. A couple other things that I did want to mention on this chat. I did add a couple of new games to the closet. I went and found a local thrift store that had some very surprising gems in it. So I picked up a copy of Liberty Road, the war stories from Conquistador Games. Liberty Road, if you haven't heard of this before, it was released in about 2013, 2014, something like that. And what it is, it's a one-on-one war game where it has a fog of war aspect to it. It has wood pieces to it. It has level tiles. It comes with like 12 different scenarios. So this is the Allied versus German game. As a war game goes, it looks pretty good. It has some nice features to it. It has an objective book for the Germans and an objective book for the American forces, which are different. So you're never quite sure what is going to get thrown at you. Plus, you also can get cards that can do additional things. That the cards allow you to throw random curveballs into your deck. Like, for example, the Germans want to put an artillery strike in there. The Allied forces don't know an artillery strike is coming. The Germans do. So at some point there will be a massive artillery barrage that the Allied forces have to deal with. The Germans have to deal with extra reinforcements that can come up. The game is a very well built game. I was surprised to find this at a thrift store. I think it's a very high quality game. You can see on the back here, it does have like wooden block pieces. It has card chips. It comes with cards. It's on a tile board that actually you can add additional levels to. So it has a really nice element to it. Uh, Another thing I picked up was the other War Stories game, which is Red Storm. Red Storm is the same game, except you're playing with the Soviet forces against the Germans in, say, 1943. Again, it has 12 scenarios to it. You can play this. Again, very well built, well designed. And both of those games are linkable. So you can actually have games where you can link in the American forces and the Russian forces. So they are well built games. And I was surprised to pick them up for as cheap as I found them. I found them for about $4.50 a piece, which is a steal for these kind of board games. So those are some of the newest additions to the closet this week, which I think are a fantastic addition. I'm always a big fan of big box war games. Those are good big box war games. Another thing that I do want to mention, if you haven't checked out any of the previous live streams, Conquest Fresno is happening this weekend. If you're in the Fresno, California area, Clovis, I would strongly recommend dropping by Conquest Fresno. It's a nice 2-day gaming convention at a VA hall. All of the proceeds go to the Veterans of Foreign Wars hall to help the veterans, help make additions to the hall. Basically, it gets them additional money, which is always a good thing. So if you're in the Fresno Clovis area, which is a little south of me, but north of LA, so nice couple-hour drive. You can drop to a decent gaming convention. So I would recommend checking that out if you are in the area this weekend. If not, I would take a look on your calendar. They have a nice website, Conquest Fresno. I would give them a look at. Next week I will not be doing a live stream, but I will be dropping out a small video at the same time, which I will be doing a unboxing video for a really weird game. I found a 1982 board game that the outside box is beat to heck. It's used, you can tell it's been stored in really weird places, but upon opening it, it has a shrink wrap layer on the inside of the box that covers the bottom of the box, not the lid. So it has a inside level layer of shrink wrap. So technically it is still a sealed 1982 Parker Brothers board game called Lost Treasure. Lost Treasure is a game where you have to dive and pick up treasures. You have to deal with longitude and latitudes to actually pick up where treasure is located at. And it has a weird computer system that keeps track of how much in depth you're going, and locations for treasures. But again, it's from 1982, so it's a little weird. That is coming next week. Like I said, I won't be doing a live stream, but I will be doing an unboxing video on this game, which will be airing at the same exact time of noon for next Sunday or next Saturday, and then a actual playthrough for how to play and review of the game will drop out right around the same weekend. So something to look forward to is Lost Treasure is coming, which is a Parker Brothers game that I grew up with many, many years ago. I lost my copy and growing up, and it's probably still in my parents' basement or something like that. Who knows where it is? But I did pick up this really odd copy off of eBay probably about 6 months ago or so. But upon further examination, like I said, the inside is still sealed. So all the parts are brand new on a very beat up box, surprisingly. So that is coming. Yeah, I agree. Lost Treasure is a great game, Craig. I'm always a big fan of it. Like I said, it's one of those electronic deep sea diving games. It's weird. The box art on it I think is great. It has this really neat undersea box art to it. It feels very 80s with the giant uh, little mini computer that they give you. I think that runs on like double D batteries or something like that. Um, I don't know. It's weird. Like I said, I'm going to go through that and bring that up next weekend. So, are there any questions out there at all or anything? I know, Craig, you're watching. I know you've made some comments. I don't know if you have any questions at all. Um, so, 'cause I'm about 20 minutes in. Normally I do about 30 on these just to see, but I don't have enough examples on the TV show options. I do have several movie options, but that's a different episode. So, um, I do have some other equipment that I'm working on. Like I said, this is kind of like my home office that I normally film these in. I'm trying to get a different studio space so that way I can film these in a different location. I'm still working on that. Um, it's kind of weird. From Dice Tower Con, hottest games played for this week: Dune, Imperium, Gutenberg, and Serengeti. Okay, good to know. Uh, Dice Tower Con is always a good nice fixture. I'm always interested in seeing what they're up to. I know they have their top 10 lists, and I kind of keep tabs on what Tom Basil's doing because I like seeing what's newer on the market. But again, this channel's tailored a little more towards the older stuff that they don't deal with as much. And I know they don't really have a good opinion on older board games, um, even though I feel that some of them, don't get me wrong, some of them are horrible, but some of them are responsible for either creating newer games that are better. That some of them are being reprinted, like um, Fortress Americas had finally got a reprint after many years. There's a bajillion copies of Axis and Allies floating out there, which I think is a phenomenal game. Some of those Avalon Hill games, I think, deserve a reprint. I don't know if they'll ever get one. Like Panzer Leader, I'm a fan of Kingmaker, Samurai. I think all those games deserve a nice reprint or a nice repolish. I think, but I don't know if that'll ever happen since Hasbro bought out Avalon Hill and has kind of shelved a lot of their stuff and is using their logo on other games, kind of like Betrayal on the House on the Hill or stuff like that. So, but I feel that some of those should get a nice reprint, but who knows? Um, if there's no other questions out there or any thoughts or anything you'd like to ask, I'm probably going to cut this a little early today. But like I said, next week I will not be doing a live stream, but I will be doing an episode on an unboxing of a 1982 board game of Lost Treasure, which I think will be interesting. It's something that I've been looking forward to doing because I have been very hesitant about moving this game around because I don't want to inadvertently open it. But I will do that on camera for you guys because I think you'll get a blast out of that. But other than that, if there's no other questions, yeah, still nothing out there. All right. So we'll call it today and look forward to seeing you soon. As always, please have a great gaming day. I do appreciate you coming in and checking out the live stream. Do you have a favorite TV show game? Um, Favorite TV show game? Well, I would say out of all the games that I have, so I do have a fair amount of them. Uh, Star Trek: The Next Generation, the interactive VCR board game, I would say is on that list. I'm a big fan of the game. Plus, the yelling Klingon is always a nice, fun, laughable topic with friends when we have a sit down on this game. Um, yeah, it's a very well built game, and I always enjoy it. As for older games, some of them are, I would say, I like the Quick Draw McGraw board game that I showed last week, but it's a very simplistic game. A lot of the older games from like the 50s and 60s are more simplistic. Um, but my favorite TV show board game, I would say, would be Klingon. the 21 Challenge, the TNG board game. But doesn't look like there's any other questions out there. Oh, mine is The Detectives from 1961. I have not played that one, Craig. It is on my list eventually to pick up and take a look at. But some of those older board games are extremely hard to find. I know I've been looking for a decent copy of The Outer Limits for a long time. I do want to sit down and try playing one of the A-Team and Knight Rider board games from the 80s, which they seem kind of interesting. Especially the Knight Rider one, where you have the little car and you drive around and you have to do different things. I know I'm in the process of picking up a copy of the $6 Million Man board game, which I'm gonna give that a try. So I know you have to do different things on those lines. But like I said, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on some more of those TV games. I don't have a lot of them because they are a little harder to find. Especially complete copies are extremely hard to find on some of those. But I am looking forward to it, and I will be bringing more of those to the channel at some point soon, especially a nice playthrough of Combat and Battlestar. I'm looking to do a sit-down on playthrough of those sometime, hopefully in the next couple of months, if I can get some time put together. Yeah, I agree. They're all fun games. I would say no game is really a bad game. It just depends on the gaming group that you have, the audience that you have on it. It just really depends on how imaginative you want to be with it. Don't get me wrong. There are games that are, I think, subpar compared to games that are now from nowadays, which nowadays is kind of the mecca of the game market, I guess it were. Because I mean, Colt Express, Tiny Towns, Gravwell, I'm a fan of a lot of those newer games. They have some nice features to them, but some of the old retro stuff, I think, it's not equivalent, but it's good in a different way, if that makes sense. Some of those games are novel. They do weird different things. Some of them have those weird like electrical motors in them, like It from the Pit, or you have Voice of the Mummy or Seance that run on those teeny little records. I mean, those games are just weird because they don't do that kind of stuff anymore. So I think they're a interesting novelty. Same thing with like the VCR games. They don't do that stuff anymore, because nobody really has a VCR anymore. So those old novelty games, I think, are good in a different way. So, but any other questions? Doesn't look like it. So yeah, we're coming up on the 30-minute mark, so that's generally what I run. And you're gonna call it today. Looking forward to seeing you in week after next with another live stream. Again, look forward to Lost Treasure. And as always, have a great gaming day.